welcome to RC Video Reviews. Man, it's been a hot minute since we got together, hasn't it? I'm glad we got a chance on Friday, April 7th, to get together and hang out. And I hope you guys can stay for a while because we have some material to cover. Before I get started, I would like to ask you guys for a quick little sound check. Hopefully the sound check works and we have good audio. So just let me know, give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. And we'll get started with the who's first game, and it was definitely Hobby. Hobby got in right after the thing launched, so he was on it today. Freddie is a little usurper. He tried to come in like 4 hours later and try and claim first, but that didn't work. Anyway, glad you guys could make it, Freddie. Glad to see you as always. Bill's in the room. Gordon Jeff is here. Steven Cristofero, how are you? He says, I'll never be first. So you got to get on Discord. You got to get on Discord. That's how they do it. It posts right away to Discord, and that's, I think, how they do it. Bill says 5 by. Awesome. Very good. Great. Good audio in Michigan. And Jeff says, sounds good. Four Eyes is here. Laura Harth is here. Hello, Laura. FL Engineer is definitely not first. And Freddie says that's debatable. I told Fred, after claiming first like that, after Hobie was in and did that Hobie might travel up here just to slap him in the eye. And he said that nobody is fast enough to catch Fast Freddy. That's so funny. Stan Heaton, how you doing, my friend? Sounds good in Arkansas. That's good. Jeff H, how you doing, Jeff? Glad you can make it. Ken N says sounds good. Hello. Well, it's been a couple weeks, man. It was between some events. You know, we had some family stuff, some baseball, and we had some travel. So it's been a couple weeks since we got together, and I'm glad we got a chance to get together. We had a lot to get through. We're going to start with the week in review, and I'm going to go through it kind of quick because it was like a 2-week window. So I'm not going to cover everything in too much detail, but we're going to get through it kind of quick. I posted a whole bunch of shorts, and I'll tell you what, man, YouTube is teaching me a lesson on shorts. People seem to like them. I don't know if it's an attention span thing or what. I don't know, but people seem to like those short videos. So I posted a bunch of shorts. We did a whole bunch of shorts at the Florida Jets. I did some at the Wings Over America event up in Georgia that we went to. So, and the weird thing about shorts is a lot of people subscribe from shorts. It's really crazy. Anyway, a lot of shorts videos. And then in terms of production, we did the pylon racing, which is right over there. That's the pylon racing right there. That was very cool. And then we had the big jets at Florida Jets, which was a lot of fun down in Lakeland. And Freddie and I are getting ready to go down to Lakeland again. There's Top Gun down there, and this time it's Warbird Jets. And I guess it's a pretty big event, so we're going to go down there for that too. Anyway, we did the Jets video, and then I did the throttle lock for Boxer. And, you know, I don't know why. It's like I'm a glutton for punishment doing throttle lock videos because it doesn't matter what I do for a throttle lock video. Somebody always has, you know, it's too complicated. There's a better way. Not it's too much, too little, whatever. It's just one of those things. But, you know, you guys have been around for a while. You know the deal. I'm really just trying to show you logic tricks. And, you know, if you can work out a method with logic on Edge that works for you, then that's the win, right? You get to do it your way. And that's cool, but whatever, you know, it's fine. The next up was the Game Changer. We're going to talk about that one. It's such a sad, you guys follow, you know what happened. It was really, really sad event. Kind of broke my heart a little bit, but we'll get over that one and we'll figure it out. Then the next up was the Epic 3D Flying and RC Planes. That was Wings Over America up in Andersonville, Georgia at Hodges Field. Freddie and Dave and I all went to that. We got an interview from Mr. Tim over at now Extreme Flight. He used to be the owner of Northwest RC, but he is now a general manager at Extreme Flight and a part owner, or I don't know what the relationship is, but he owns it, part of it, whatever. So we got to interview him and his son, Tim, very good pilot, real nice young man, and amazing stick skills. So that was a really cool event. Some really cool flying, great big airplanes, a lot of fun watching those guys do their thing. And after that, it was the Pilot Jam. So that's the week in review. And that covers what got us here. Jeff says audio's good all the way down in Australia. Good. I'm glad we didn't lose any decibels going down that far. Let's see. HB Jeff is here. Jeff, how are you? Jerry Willifong is here. Good evening. Drummond Stewart. Good evening, pilots. And FL Engineer says he might be able to make Top Gun. Cool. Well, you're always invited, Tim. You know that, man. Standing invite for you for that kind of stuff. So. All right, that covers the week in review. Let's get into the topic. The topic is the crash. I wanted to cover this first because at the end of the day, it was devastating. The laser. So if you don't know, I crashed the laser and it's bad. Dave actually collected up the parts. He took the wings, he took the fuselage, I took the hardware, he took the balsa. And Dave's going to try and rebuild it. I already sent a note to Tim asking him for a fuselage, canopy, and cowl, and Dave thinks he can fix the wings. And after that, for me personally, I've asked him for an ARF. I know that they will stock the ARF, and as soon as they show up in Georgia, I'm going to get one, and I'll use the hardware from the plug and play in the ARF, and then Dave can do whatever he wants with the one that was crashed. So the question of the day is what happened. That's what everyone wants to know. What happened? And the answer is, we don't know. I'll tell you some lessons learned. We'll cover some lessons learned, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we think might have happened. So one thing we know is it was not a misconfiguration on the radio. A lot of times on a Maiden, you get up and you turn the sticks and you find out, uh-oh, ailerons are backwards, elevators backwards. It wasn't that, because the plane crashed after about 4 or 5 minutes of flying. So it was not a radio misconfiguration problem or configuration problem. That wasn't the issue. And we know that it wasn't like a linkage or a power issue in terms of battery. So it had battery. When it got onto the ground, the battery still worked. So it wasn't like the battery came loose. You know, I've had that happen in flight where you tumble around a little bit and the battery gets a little loose. I've had that happen, but that wasn't it, because it still had power even after the crash. And by the way, to add insult to injury, it destroyed a 6L 5000, which, you know, those aren't cheap. So I had to put that one to sleep. So what it came down to, as far as I can tell by looking, and there's some disagreement, you know, or not, I shouldn't say disagreement. The answer is we don't know. So it was either the stabilizer slid out of the saddle, and if the stabilizer moves backwards while the servo is connected to the horn via the linkage, that would cause a pitch down. The weird part is there is nothing that would cause it to pitch up after. So we just, unless it was a servo movement and it pushed the stabilizer back into the saddle, I guess that's a possibility. We just don't know. The reason that Dave is convinced that it was a stabilizer is because on the ground, the stabilizer was loose. When we took it back to the table, it moved. However, right after the crash, when we walked up to it, I moved the elevator up and down, and it was lifting the fuselage off the ground and still in its spot. It hadn't moved. So we just don't know. We don't know if it was a stabilizer or not. And then the only other possibility is radio. It could have been the radio, could have been a lack of control. And I was flying for the first time with the EL-18. Now, I want to be careful about that, because the reality is I don't know. Sadly, I was too stupid to turn logging on. So we're going to talk about lessons learned, right? There were some lessons learned. The first lesson was that I violated my own rules for Maiden. And you guys that follow me around on YouTube and you watch my Maiden videos, you know the way I do things, right? We take off, we trim it, we do the normal the aeronautic test. You know, we do the upline upline inverted for CG. We do the yaw test, the stall test. We do a couple landings, you know, a couple of approaches if we need to. And then after that, I tell you, I'm going to land the plane and go back to the bench and inspect it. That was my failure. And what happened in reality was I'm too comfortable. I'd had so many Maiden successes strung together in a row that I thought, it'll be fine. I know how to build an airplane. But see what I mean? This is why I do these things. I get on YouTube and I make videos and I say, here's what I'm going to do and here's why I'm going to do it. And sure enough, the first time that I don't follow my own damn advice, there goes the plane. So it was a bummer. That was lesson number one. You know, I'm going to stick to my pattern from now on doing Maidens. I'm going to take it up, do the basic flying, trimming, you know, make sure it flies straight and square and all of that stuff, do a couple of approaches, then get it on the ground and do an inspection. There's a reason that I do that, and you saw it in the short video that I published on the crash. That's why I do it. So that was lesson number one. Lesson number two was logging. These radios have tremendous logging capabilities. It was really ignorant not to turn the logging on, because if it were a radio issue, the log probably would have showed me. And I would have known. And that's one of the worst things about a crash like that. It'd be one thing if I plowed it in, but I didn't. I was flying fine. It went in due to some failure. So it was either something with the stabilizer or something with the radio. So lesson number 2 is logging. You got to turn the logging on. And then lesson number 3, don't get ahead of yourself. You know, I like I said, I'd strung a lot of victories together with maidens, and I felt pretty comfortable. I just went up there and tore hell with that airplane and doing a knife edge spin and going into inverted, coming out. I actually came out of it clean. If you watch the video, I came out of the inverted, no problem. It was kind of flat, and then all of a sudden started to porpoise and went in. So you just get comfortable. So don't get comfortable. Stay salty. That's what we used to say in the military. Stay salty. So that's that. That's the crash. I figured we'd address the elephant in the room because that was brutal. You know, it was a nice airplane. It was not a cheap airplane, of course. And I felt terrible seeing that thing go in. But here's what I can tell you about the plane. Now, let's get to the bright side. First off, the plane is spectacular. It was so good flying. I had a great time flying the plane. It flew straight and square. A little bit of trim work, but after that, boy, the spins were great. The knife edge spin was great. The knife edges were fantastic. The loops and rolls, everything. I even, during one comment on the video itself, the production video, which I haven't made yet. I don't know if I'm going to. But on the actual production video, I did a quick roll, and boy, was it aggressive. It really went around the axis quick. So the plane was fantastic. I have zero beef with the plane. Unfortunately, I only got to fly it for about 5 minutes, so that sucks. Let's see. EL18, yeah, the Tim Barth. The EL18 is a Fly Sky. It's a game. It looks like a gamepad. I don't have it handy, or I'd get it out for you, but it looks like a gamepad controller. It's kind of red. But it's by Fly Sky with EdgeTX. And I was using an FTR10 AFH DS3 receiver. And the AFH DS3, I think, is pretty well established to be a decent RF link. So I don't know. That's why I really didn't publish any conclusions, because I don't know the answer. And I'm not going to fault the radio without knowing that it was a radio. So the plan to go forward, by the way, is to take that same radio system and fly it on my Grim Reaper, because the Grim Reaper can take a punch. If I put that in the dirt, it doesn't matter. It'll just get up and fly again. Oh, and by the way, that's a 4th lesson. Don't try a new radio on an expensive plane. That's another lesson I learned. I thought it would be fine. You know, I trusted Edge. I know Fly Sky. The PL18 is amazing. Their over-the-air tech seems to get pretty good reviews from people that use it regularly. So that's why I did it. And lesson learned. Don't do that. I won't do that again. It'll be a known radio link that goes in my planes for especially the expensive stuff. I won't monkey around with unknown radio links on very expensive planes anymore. That's over. So that's that. That's the crash. I'm going to check and see if there are any questions, then we'll push forward. Let's see. John crashed. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty ugly. Mr. Skyrider made it in. Good evening. Those are reverse DB. Those are reverse DB, Fred. I don't follow you, brother. Did you figure out what caused the PMP? We talked about that. Was not pilot error, Fred. It was pilot error in the sense that I'm the one that screwed it up. So, but it wasn't like stick related stuff. It was not that. Are we going to get a look at the M4? Oh, you know we're going to get a look at the M4, my friend. We're definitely getting that out. Sitting right here, ready to go. It's coming up. Hang tight. Jimmy Doolittle says, yep, I just crashed my Escapade. I don't have enough telemetry RX, and after what I calculated was a flight duration that should have been safe, my servos froze. I think it was a brownout. Hey, you know what, Jimmy? That's a foreshadowing. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. And then Tim says, yeah, the M4 update. Okay, good. We'll push on. You guys want to get moving? Let's get moving. Oh, look at that, Fred. How about that? It's almost like Fred knew. So we're going to set this aside. I'm going to turn the radio off for now. We'll set this aside. And we're going to get the M4 out and I'm going to hide the chat. So let me turn the chat off there, and let me start pulling some stuff out. I want to show you guys the M4. So if you guys don't know, this is sponsored by OMPHobby, Buddy RC specifically. Buddy RC sent me the OMP M4 for review, and I wanted to show you first a quick look at the hardware. This is the way it comes out of the box. So there's a little plastic cover, so I took that off so we don't fiddle with that on the video. And I will be doing a production video on this too, by the way. But anyway, here's the box. And you know what? I don't like the colors I'm seeing. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I don't know. I don't know. It seemed like the white balance is off just a little bit. Yeah, that looks a whole lot better. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know. I actually did do a white balance before we started, so I'm not sure what that was all about. Anyway, here's the motor. And this was the, this was like the first thing that made a massive impression on me when I took this out of the box. Look at this thing. That is a pretty big motor. It's a pancake motor. It's a Sunny Sky. It's a V8108. So 81 around, 08 tall. And it's only 205 kV. And of course that spins a 6-cell. So a really cool little arrangement. They've got this 3-pin XT60 looking connector on the back for the motor leads. And that's the motor. So brilliant. I love Sunny Sky. I'm a big fan of Sunny Sky motors. So the motor, very cool. And really quick, here's a look at the swash plate. I know some of you guys like to see this stuff. One of the things I noticed about this one is that's like an equidistant swash plate. Like I think it's equal. It looks equal. Maybe not. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is an equidistant swash plate. So there's the swash plate. And then the other thing about this one is that you do have to assemble this. All the OMP helicopters I've had so far, they have come out of the box ready to fly, and we're going to have problems focusing because all the stuff down below, the camera doesn't know what to do. So here we go. Come on, camera. There it is. So that's the tail shaft and the tail blade grips, and that's already kind of assembled. So I'm not sure exactly what needs to come apart to get it to, bolt up, but that's how it comes out of the box. So they do a lot of that type of work for you, which is very cool. So the motor, pancake direct drive motor, and Sunny Sky, which you guys know I'm a huge fan of Sunny Sky motors. I'm sure that'll be fantastic. And then on the rest of the hardware, the main blade grips, again, they're assembled already. That's how it comes out of the box. And you can see there the blade grips. It's all metal. And it looks really nice. Looks like nice hardware. Looks, machining looks really good on it. I did notice the ball links are loose, so they have to be taken out and cleaned and Loctited. So that's that. But the main blade grips are there. And then the ESC, the other nice thing about the ESC is it is completely wired and ready to go out of the box. They've got the battery connector right there, and then this is this one that goes in the motor. Remember that 3-pin motor connector we showed just a little while ago? So that's that. No fan on this one, and it's 65 amp. And I looked on the back and on the sides, and I didn't see any labels about who maybe made this one. I'm not sure. And there's the specs on the back. So it's a 6, 7.4 or 8.4 volts BEC, 10 amps, and 3 to 6S. So that's kind of cool. I mean, 10 amps, that's cool. I like that. That's nice. We're going to talk a little bit about that too, because that's another question that came up on the crash, right? Is what's the deal with the servos? I have an answer for that. We're going to talk about that. And then real quick on the servos, these are OMP branded, OMPHobby branded DS2312C, and the tail rotor, it just says T on the back as in Tango. That's all it says. So DS2312 Charlie, and then a Tango on the back for the tail rotor. And I think I got it right here. Yep, that's the one. I'll just pop it out and let you see it. So here's the tail rotor servo, and that's it. So 2312 Tango for the tail rotor. They look like KST. They certainly use the same design aesthetic as KST. I'm not saying they are. I don't know, but they kind of look like it. And it says made in China. So that's it for the hardware. It's all nicely packaged. It all came in the box with this big foam block protecting everything. So that was all excellent. I was real happy with the way they shipped it. Very clean. I don't expect you'll have any problems if you order one. By the way, I do have an affiliate link with Buddy RC, and when they post, I will give you guys an affiliate link. If you want to get one, if you use my affiliate link, the channel gets a little bit of a kickback. So I'd appreciate it if you use my affiliate link, if you go get one of these. It just helps the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything extra. And Buddy RC, I've been using them for years. They're excellent. They really are very good. They ship stuff out fast. I've been buying stuff from Buddy RC for a long time. So I can recommend them even well ahead of, the fact that they just sponsored the channel with the helicopter. So, and then there's the box of parts. I'm not going to go through every bit of this on the Pilot Jam, but what I will tell you is that everything is numbered and it's sequential. So they've got, see if I can get a couple in a row. There it is. So there's a 301 and then a 302. So everything's nice and ordered. And right now, the manual, they did send me a manual electronically. There was not a printed manual in the box. So they sent me an electronic one. I guess they're putting some final touches on the manual, so they don't want that getting out just yet. I guess when they're ready, they will send that out to the, you know, put it out on the internet for everyone to download. But right now, they're not finished with it yet, so they asked us to kind of hold on to that. But I do have a manual, and it looks very thorough. The manual looks excellent. You know, no complaints. I already went through it. So there's the box of hardware. Everything's bagged and numbered, so pretty much standard fare, right? That's the normal thing that we expect. And then this is always the fun part, right? I wanted to show you guys this because who doesn't love looking at the canopy? I love these canopies. And that's bright, man. Look at how bright that orange is. That is just going to pop in the sky. I know that's going to be bright. I can't wait to fly it. It reminds me a lot of the M2 Evo, same kind of stylistic language. So it looks really, really good. I'm very happy with the way the canopy looks, and it feels like fiberglass. It doesn't feel like that, like the proto style plastic. That actually feels like fiberglass. It doesn't even, you know, the M2, same thing. It's got that Lexan kind of body. This feels woven. So that's woven in there. Anyway, camera's struggling with all that white in there, but there you go. That's a look at the canopy. I'm not really sure about the blue sky is calling. I don't know. Maybe a more neutral color like black would have been better for that, and it certainly would have made the letters pop, but orange and blue and red, I don't know, man. That's the only thing I don't think I care for on the canopy is that just looks a little out of place. Like, why wouldn't they make that black and gray or something, you know? Something like that, or maybe a brighter orange or something. I don't know. It just seems a little out of place, a little colorful for my taste, but the side looks great and the canopy overall looks really good. Yeah, I think it's fiberglass, Tim. It's got a weave. You know, I don't know if the camera's going to be able to figure it out. There it is. Yeah, you can see that weave in there. It's not like Lexan. It's not Lexan. So yeah, the canopy, excellent. And then I have a big surprise for you guys on this one tonight. I got a big surprise on this one. This is going to be a cool little reveal, something new that I haven't done before. Of course, it comes with the main rotor blades. They're Ultimate 385s, and these are a little wider. I compared these to a set of 380s that I have, and they are just a little bit wider. They've got the same, oh boy, the camera's just dying here. It's got the same grip width and the hole diameter, but it's a little wider of a blade, so I guess they're pretty good. And then the tail boom, in case you're wondering about these things, is a keyed, like a triangle shape. Is camera's struggling with this stuff? Come on, camera. Come on. There it is. There's the tail boom. So you can see it's got this keyed kind of triangle shape at the bottom, so it's not square, but anyway, yeah, nice little OMPHobby on the tail boom there. So RotorTech Ultimates, which is awesome. And same thing with the tail blades. They're also carbon. They're carbon. Now, here's the big news. This is the one that I was kind of waiting to show you guys because this is the big announcement. I've never used one of these fly barless before. I've been talking with Rob. If you don't know Rob, he goes by Bender on Discord, and he flies a lot of helicopters, so he's pretty knowledgeable, and he tinkers probably more than me. I'm sure more than me. So anyway, Rob, he let me know that on his, boy, I'm seeing the bit rate drop real low all of a sudden for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on with the network here. It's not receiving enough video, it says. Let me switch out of this for a second. I don't know, maybe hopefully that helps. Anyway, Rob has been using the Spirit GT fly barless for a while, and the big news on this one, and what's going to be important about this build, is I have the GPS. And the GPS on this one is really cool because it has a return to home functionality and or recovery functionality. So if you're out flying around and you have an issue, you can punch a button and have it return to home and recover. So that's kind of the big news on this one, is that it's got not only the GPS functionality, but the fly barless itself has a hard deck. It has a hard deck. So you can set a base altitude, you know, a minimum altitude. And if it goes below that, it'll invoke the return to home feature on the GPS. So I'm kind of looking forward to this because my intention is to set this one up like a trainer. It's to set it up as a trainer and then do some testing where, you know, we validate that everything works first. And then once we're, you know, convinced everything works okay, then, you know, we'll try and test out the GPS and test out that hard floor. And if everything works, I'll probably go ahead and share my Spirit and radio configuration on Discord. So if you're interested in following along or, you know, utilizing this type of setup for an M4 for yourself, you can do that. I'll also point out that the Spirit GT actually ships out of Czechoslovakia, but I ordered it Tuesday and I got it today, and it was free shipping. So they actually move pretty quick, not a big deal. So if you're interested in checking this out, this is the Spirit. I'll give you a look at the fly barless too real quick. Let me just pop this out of the box so you can see it. Here's the fly barless, the flight computer. That's the Spirit GT. And I think this is the latest one. And it's a nice little unit. It's got this nice anodized casing on it. It's got a satellite connection, satellite 1 and 2. It does work with S-Bus, so I'll be plugging in an S-Bus receiver. And from what I understand from Rob, you do get all the telemetry. So you get RPM and current. I guess the ESC has to support the current, but it is supported on the fly barless. So there's the fly barless that we'll be using. That is a switch from Icon, which is what I use on everything else. But I wanted to try this one because my real goal was to set this up like a trainer and then use the trainer mechanism. And once we get that working, then I'd like to post that in the Discord so that if you have any kind of interest in a helicopter, the M4, the OMP M4 is kind of like a lower cost entry into helicopters. And then if you pair that with a fly barless that can help you recover, you can use that as a trainer. And that's kind of what I'm after, is to set one up. So if you're interested in learning, you have a helicopter option now that will be a good teacher. So that's it. That's the OMP M4. I'm going to close up these boxes, set them aside, and we're going to go and look at questions real quick. I'm going to switch back to the desktop here. So let's see, M4 update. What's the motor weigh? Fred wants to know. All right, Fred, hold on. I swear, I think this is a game. I'm going to find out one of these days, but I'm pretty sure it's a game that we play with John to ask if I don't have the scale on the table, how much does it weigh? But anyway, let's see. Boy, the network is just bouncing all over the place. 1 second. Let me see if I can do something with this network deal here. I'm just change the setting on OBS to see if it kind of helps the network out. I don't know if it will or not. Anyway, Fred wants to know how much the motor weighs, so we'll turn the scale on. We're on grams. We're zeroed out, and let's just drop the motor right on there. And 274 grams, Fred. 274. That's how much it weighs. Of course, my scale isn't calibrated, so it might be 274 and a half or 273 and a half. Who knows? Let me see. I'm going to check the other questions. Freddie, what's the motor weigh? The motor does look beefy. Good question whether it weighs more than an equivalent small fast motor with pinion and spur gear. All that should be taken apart completely, says Fred. Yeah, and greased, I know. And cleaned. Freddie's anal about that stuff. Telemetry for Icon and Spirit are supposed to be in the works. Yeah, that's what I hear. Telemetry is supposed to be in the works for this one. Let me set this aside and go back to the desktop real quick. Give you guys something to look at while we talk. Okay, gotta love Buddy RC. I live in the same state, so I get stuff in 2 days every time. Yeah, I was impressed. I've always been impressed with Buddy because I think they shipped it on Tuesday and I got it on Friday. It's really good. Every time you bring up helicopters, it does that. I know, Fred. Audio has been fine. Video a little choppy. As long as the audio is good, that's the important part. Just internet stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. With this video, the uplink speed. You know, I run the stream like for a half an hour before we kick it off, and it just seems to cruise along until we start actually doing stuff. Of course. Let's see. Tim Barr says, hey, I need that. You're talking about the GPS. I know. I've been wanting to try that out. Jimmy Doolittle says, I have a lot of helis. I don't have one that size. Looks very nice. We'll use your link to buy one. Oh, I appreciate that, Jimmy. Thank you. Where's our new 3D plane pilot, Freddie? Yeah, Fred, I don't know, man. Fred's not, we've tried getting Fred into fixed wing. He's just got a 2-track mind. We've covered that. I've been using a Spirit with GeoLink on a RAW 580. It is very sensitive to vibrations causing drift. Okay, good to know. Thanks for the info. I am curious. I don't really care about having it hover. All I really care about is saving my bacon. So if I go up there and try new things, I want to see it stop me from killing the helicopter. That's kind of what I'm most interested about. Freddie says, sent the planes down the road. He did. Freddie unloaded them. I love the idea to put your config in Discord. That's why I joined your Patreon. Thanks. Well, I appreciate you, Jimmy. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Robert, we bet $1 if you do it between us, John, for how much it weighs. I know. I'm on to you guys. I'm not, I was born at night, but not last night. All right, 9.8 ounces. All right, so enough chit chat. That's the OMP M4. Hope you guys like that first first look. Let me turn my scale off so I don't run the batteries out. There it is. All right. So that's the M4. Let's see. Oh, by the way, on the M4, tomorrow, you guys know it's Easter weekend, so happy Easter if you celebrate. We're doing a family thing for Easter tomorrow, so and we're leaving in the morning, so I can't pull an all-nighter building a helicopter. Probably wind up starting on it Saturday evening sometime. That's probably what I'm thinking. Unlikely it'll maiden this weekend. I doubt it. We'll see, maybe, but I'm not counting on it. It's probably going to be next weekend. All right, so that's the helicopter. Let's move on. The voltage sensor. Okay. I wanted to show you guys something on the, no, I'm not. I don't have a radio on, and I'm on 5.8. I'm trying to make sure that I don't have some radio interference with the network. So anyway, the voltage sensor. I wanted to show you guys something on this one because I've been working quite a bit to make sure I've got voltage on everything. And one of the radios that I still use, because I have a bunch of them, is the S6R. So the S6R, this is kind of like, we were talking about known radio tech, right? We were talking about that earlier. So the S6R is one of those known radio techs that I use because I've had them for a long time and they've always worked well for me. So I just wanted to show you guys something really quick. I'm going to show you two things actually really quick. So we're going to talk a little bit about servo load. One of the questions I got about the plane, and a lot of people have asked, well, was it a brownout? And we also talk about this idea on big planes about amperage on the servo. So one of the big questions that people always come up with is they're like, hey, if you put a big servo, like, a heavy torque servo on a receiver like this, these receivers and their boards and these pins, they're not really designed to carry much current. So a lot of people, you're familiar with power boxes, right? People use these power boxes or some form of power distribution because you want to make sure you can accommodate load demand from the servo. This is one of the servos out of the laser. This is one of the Theta servos, poor laser. SW989, that's the I don't know. This is one of the either elevator or rudder. So we took that off the plane. And what I've got here, let me just walk you through the setup real quick. So I just have a BEC and a battery connected. Okay, so we'll just set that aside because we really don't care about that. And that's this wire going in. Then this wire, let me kind of see if I can untangle things a little bit for you guys. One moment here. Let me see if I can unwind this just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so this wire is S port. So if you look on the receiver, this is S port, and S port goes to, I have it set up going into an FLVS. This is a voltage sensor. So what I'm going to do just to kind of show you how this works, I'm going to use the battery from my BEC and I'm going to plug it into the voltage sensor. So the ground is on this side. We'll just plug that in. And by the way, they have these little OLED screens so you can see your battery voltage when you do that. So that's one sensor, just a battery sensor. And then the second wire coming off of that battery sensor is this guy. These wires, I mean, you can't, what do? They get so wadded up here. Let me plug this back in here. Okay, so this little sensor is called a FAS7, and it's a current sensor for servos. It goes up to 7 amps and it daisy chains off of an S port. This is an S port device. You can see that I've just got it daisy chaining off that S port device. And then the other lead goes into the receiver. Okay. So all we've got here, how do I manage to do this? No, I don't know how they stay so wadded up. So what I've got here is the current sensor goes into the receiver. Actually, it's the voltage coming out of the receiver that goes into the current sensor. And then on this side, it goes out. And all I did was just connect a little extension. So I can take it, put it in and out of the plane. You know, I can use it in different planes. So it was meant to be spliced in there. And that connects to the servo. So you can see if I can move my stick and I can move the servo around, right? So here's what I wanted to show you. And the reason I wanted to do this little project is because I want to start answering the question, what kind of amperage do we see on these things? So when you discover sensors, you can see, let me just bring this up just a little bit. And you can see I've got, hey, look, I've got my pointer handy tonight. How about that? So you can see right here, I've got this sensor that says CUR, and then VFAS. VFAS is the voltage coming in on that amperage sensor. And current, CURR, is the current coming in on this little FAS7 sensor. So all I'm going to do is I'm trying to get you guys, let me make an adjustment here. Does that help? I'm going to try and get this thing to focus on the radio. There we go. That looks like it's okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the servo and put a little load on it. And you can watch that current sensor. See how it's moving up to 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. That's just putting a little bit of load on the servo. That's all I did. So that's what I'm going to do on some of my planes, especially new planes. I want to put this current sensor in, and it's good for up to 7 amps, which is basically every servo I've used. So it's good for up to 7 amps. I intend to put this in line initially and just log a little bit of data. I can go out and put this on an elevator or a rudder. I don't know if they daisy chain yet. I wanted to make sure they worked first. Now I know they do. I'll probably get a couple more. And then what I'd like to do is put them on the aileron, elevator, rudder, and then go fly and see what the load is. I'd like to check out the load and see what goes on in terms of combined load. Because for me, it's always about measuring, right? People say stuff all the time. They're like, well, you know, if you're going to have a 7 amp or 6 amp servo, then you have to be able to, you know, support up to 9 amps for burst. And, you know, really, I don't know that you need that. So I just want to measure. That's what I'm going to do. I want to measure it. I want to see and log the data. And the good thing about the radio is you can do high and low and over time. And that's the intention, is to log the data and see it. So that's really the end of that little segment. I just wanted to show you guys, I'm going to take this apart now. So here's the sensor, and I'm just going to pull that off the radio. It's a very simple sensor. I think this little current sensor, I forgot how much it cost. I think it might be, I don't know, 20 bucks. It's not much. So 20 bucks for this thing. It just plugs in line with your servo, and you saw the telemetry works great on EdgeTX. No problem there. And then the other sensor, I'll let you get a look at this one. I'm going to disconnect it from the radio. Let's just set the radio aside and let you see this one. This one is an FLVS. This is good for 3 to 8S, I believe. Let me just check the specs on that real quick. It is good 2S to 8S, 2S to 8S. And it's got a little OLED screen and no current limitations because it's not riding current, it's just voltage. So there you go. And that just plugs in and discovers instantaneously on Edge if you've got an S-port equipped receiver. So that's all you need is an S-port receiver. Of course, the S6R is definitely an S-port receiver. Come on, help me out a little. There it is. The camera struggles when there's a bunch of stuff underneath it. It doesn't know what to focus on. There we go. So there's the S port right there. And it's just a standard port. You just plug it in and you connect and you discover, and it just works. So I'll be using this one on planes where I have like one of these S6R receivers, and I'll just be plugging that little voltage sensor in. And you guys, I'm telling you right now, for me, I'm 100% convinced that the voltage sensor is the way to go, because I've flown enough at this point to know. And by the way, I just wanted to show you this one in case you hadn't seen this already. The FlySky stuff, this is a little FSIA6B. This is a $16 receiver. I'll put a link in the description for this. 16 bucks for this. And it's got a voltage sensor that I think is about 12 bucks. So you're about $28 for a 6-channel PWM with voltage sense that works with Edge. So this one is not a stabilizer though. This is a straight PWM. And it also, by the way, provides S-bus and I-bus out. So you see this little link right here that says servo where I got the binding plug? That's actually an S-bus or I-bus output if you want to use it that way. And I have confirmed it works. It works with a Hobby Eagle, which makes this a really nice receiver if you want to use it with a Hobby Eagle and you have more than 5 channels, because you can send your S-bus stream out and you can also pick off channels on the PWM pins if you want as well. So a little FSI-6B and the voltage sensor that goes along with that. This voltage sensor, again, I'll put a link in the description for you guys. That is an FS-CVT01, and it does work with this one. You simply plug the sensor in to that little port right there that's labeled sensor. You just plug it in right there, and it discovers just like the other one. You just go into your telemetry page, hit discover new sensors, and it pops in. And then this one just uses 2 little pins that you plug into your balance lead on your battery. So on your battery, you've got your positive right here. You just plug that in like that, and your negative goes like that, and there you go. You've got your voltage on a FlySky as well. So that's that. I just wanted to show you guys a couple little things I'm working on in terms of sensors and voltage, because I've definitely embraced the concept of voltage. To me, I want voltage on everything. So let me just check the comments and we will move on. Let's see. Freddie 9.8. Good evening, gents. Says, Oliver, how you doing, my friend? Glad you can make it. Robert's at work right now. You guys have a great weekend. Happy Easter. Remember the reason. That's right. Happy Easter. That's right, Fred or Robert. Thanks for that comment. Have a great weekend. Hello, boys, says Wolfie. Glad you can make it. Dave, how you doing, man? That's cool stuff. Been liking the LRS PWM receivers with the voltage pin. Yeah, I know. I do too. It's one of those things I think as a community, we all have to say we want to see voltage on our receivers. Like I'm kind of tired of buying sensors. We know it can be done. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the sensors on the receiver from now on. I do like that we're starting to see that show up, and that's a good thing. And by the way, you know, I was talking to somebody about calculated voltage or calculated MAH, and that technically works, especially if you can calibrate it against your charger and see that the amount that you take out is the amount that you put back in. That's good. You know, that's cool. But here's the deal, man. Voltage doesn't lie. And we all know the numbers. So, you know, 3.6, 3.5, you figure out what your soft spot is, where you want to land. You pick what it is and set your alerts up for that with a little bit of a sag logic built in. And that is basically flawless. There aren't any mistakes because voltage is voltage. All you have to do is make sure your voltage reading is correct, and you would have to do that with your MAH calculations as well. So for me, it's always about voltage. I don't really care about any of the other stuff. I just want to know what the voltage is. And when I have that, then I know I'm good. And I really like this kind of logic on the system. So I like the voltage sensor and current draw. How much current can a Spectrum RX handle per port? I don't know, man. Maybe 0.4 amps. It's Spectrum. I don't know. Not much. I'm surprised they handle any current, to be honest with you. I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm yanking your chain. I'm not a Spectrum guy. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll move on. So voltage sensors. Get her done. All right. Servo current. We just talked about servo current. I don't think we're going to go in for that again, but the reason that I bought this thing was because I want to test these little thetas. And one of the comments about the laser crash was, hey, did you have a brownout? And having a current sensor on there certainly for like the elevator, at least the elevator, probably the rudder, that would be a good indicator to figure out, you know, electrically what was going on in flight. And if I can, now that I know the work, I'll order another one or two, and I'll see if I can daisy chain them. Because if I can do that, then theoretically I can label each sensor and I can get amp load during flight for every surface, which would be really cool. All right, how much voltage sag do you factor in? What I do is I don't do it based on voltage. I do it based on time. So in my voltage sag logic video, what I did is set up a voltage sag that says if the voltage stays below my cutoff for, say, 10 seconds, then I want an alert. So that's how I do it. And it's a pretty good indicator. So if your voltage is down below your level, whatever it is, say 3.6 is your number, maybe 3.5 is your number. If you go down below that and stay there for 6 to 10 seconds, then you probably have some sag, and it's probably a good idea to land. So that's how I handle it. You could probably do some logic. You could probably, write a voltage number to a global variable, maybe do a little math. There's probably some way to do that. I haven't really investigated doing actual voltage sag, but I do it based on time, and it's effective. I can tell you, after flying jets and big airplanes and small airplanes with that logic for some time now, I pretty much always come down at about 375. It's perfect every time. And 375 is after rest. So, I have it set at like 3.6. You could go a little lower if you want. That's up to you. I'm not going to preach about that. That's your choice. But for my taste, I like 3.6 is my number. It comes back around 3.75. So that's what I do. All right, Q&A. We're cruising right along. I'm going to bring up the blackboard, and we've got a little Q&A to get through. I would think the receiver can handle pretty decent current under the ground. 5-volt pin is just a strip copper to put all those 5-volt pins and grounds umbrella. Yeah, it is. But if you go out and say, I'm going to take a standard PWM receiver and stick that in a plane that's got servos that can draw 6-7 amps each, people will be alarmed. I'll tell you that. That's a fact. They'd be alarmed. That's why all these power distribution boards and power boxes are all out there. It's to solve that problem. Okay, let's see. I think that's it on questions. Let's get into the Q&A. So we'll spend a little time. So Q&A, if you haven't seen this before, I try and go through the comments and I look for stuff that's either, a good question that I think maybe more than one person might ask, or if something, if I find something humorous. So we'll spend a little minute talking about some of the questions that I've seen over the last couple of weeks on the channel. The first one is Mick Sherwood. He says, I'm not finding your EdgeTX model download. Could you post a current link? Okay. I get this one all the time. When I post software, it's in Discord. If you guys want software, you want my EdgeTX files, you want a sound file, you got to get on Discord. That's the only place that I post them. I don't post them on RC groups. I don't post them anywhere else but Discord. I don't put them on my own server even. I put them in Discord. And the reason we do that is because Discord is very searchable. I can pin files and it's easy to find them. So if you want any of my files that I've offered, model setup, a fly barless setup, Copilot information, graphics, images, audio files, any of the stuff that I make, you're going to have to get in Discord. And that's that. So we'll leave it at that. If you want it, you have to get in Discord. And by the way, I did validate in this one, the ASW 28 video. I went and looked and said the link is in the description and it's on my Discord server and I verified it. So, you got to put in the effort, man. If you want this stuff, you got to get in Discord. Next question came from SK Shahed. He said, this was an upgrade from EdgeTX 2.x to 2.8 on a TX16S. He said, is this the same for the TX16S Mark II? The answer to that is yes. Everything that is Edge related for the TX16S Mark I and Mark II is the same because they didn't change the board. They didn't change the CPU. They didn't change the board. They changed some of the knobs, some of the pots. I think they did some audio circuitry stuff by putting a jack on the back. They added a few more ports on the motherboard for extra controls. They changed the back plate up a little bit. So, there are a couple of little ergonomic things on the outside and a couple of electronic things on the inside, but the board itself is still a TX16S. There is nothing that distinguishes from a firmware perspective between a TX16S Mark I and a Mark II. Now, there is obviously a difference between a T16, right, and a TX16S. Those are different, but not between the Radiomaster stuff. So TX16S Mark I, Mark II, flash away. Have fun. All right, this one, I just kind of love this comment. Yayar Kung Fu says, you're a Zen master, my friend. You must do this for a living because that was the tightest how-to video I've ever watched. Thank you so much. That was just a nice thing to say. I thought I'd share. That's how you issue a compliment. So, of course, he got the little love symbol, thumbs up. I said, wow, thank you. Glad to help. You always get my attention when you're nice, so I like that. Next one, Duty Cohen says, thanks for the video. Looking for my first transmitter for RC planes. I'm trying to decide between the Boxer and TX16S. Is the lack of sliders on the Boxer problematic for using it with flaps? Also, do you recommend ELRS or 4-in-1? Man, there's a lot to unpack in that question. And I would say that the Boxer versus the TX16S, personally, I like the color screen. You know, for me, I'm a big fan of the color screen. And although the Boxer does feel amazingly good in the hands, and it is kind of like a full-size, got full-size gimbals, it's lightweight, there's something about that radio. It's kind of magic. I do like the Boxer, but for me, I like the full screen. I like the color. You can put the same gimbals on the Boxer. I don't know. For me, I like the TX16S better, but it's not, that's a subjective thing, right? It's not a, you know, that's just my opinion. That's not anything based in fact. So, trying to decide between the Boxer and TX16S, you have to do your own needs assessment. That's all I can really say. Is the lack of sliders on the Boxer problematic for using it with flaps? I would say no, not at all. I do actually use my sliders for flaps, but here's the deal. When I do flaps, for example, I only use flaps are up, flaps are takeoff, or flaps are landing. That's it. So that could just as easily be a 3-position switch. It wouldn't matter. So if I didn't have the slider, I personally would just put the flaps right there and it'd be almost the same thing. It'd be fine. And then the other slider I actually use for landing gear, and landing gear only have 2 positions. It's either up or down. That's it. So that one could actually be put on a 2-position switch and it'd be just fine. So I would say no. My answer to that personally for my use case would be no, not a problem. If you want to use the, you know, the switches for landing gear or flaps, go ahead. No problem. They're easy to set it up that way. And then finally, do you recommend ELRS or 4-in-1? Yes. I don't know what to say about that one. I mean, do you recommend ELRS or 4-in-1? Okay. So there's different use cases for them. 4-in-1, that one is good if you have a legacy fleet. You know, you have a lot of receivers out there, maybe some Spectrum stuff, maybe some Specky stuff, maybe some FlySky, AFH DS3. You know, if you have stuff like that, then the 4-in-1 is pretty useful because it allows you to bind with all of them, right? So you can get rid of all the other radios and just use the one. So that's cool. That's a cool feature. But I would say that the protocols on the 4-in-1 are generally designed for line of sight. So they're meant to be flying around the field, where ELRS can allow you to do some long distance stuff, right? So if you're on Express LRS, you fly long distance, and there are some, because it's open source, you got some new things happening, right? The Express LRS, we're seeing some new receiver types come in. We're now seeing S-Bus. So we have S-Bus on Express LRS. I know that we're going to see a lot more development in the PWM space. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at some point to see, you know, 10-channel versions of these. Come on, radio. Come on, camera. Work with me. It wouldn't surprise me to see, not that one, not that. PWM. Wouldn't surprise me to see some, you know, higher port counts on PWM receivers for Express LRS. I really like the fact that it's open source. I love the fact that it's open source and developers put their stuff out there so, you know, people can see what's going on, right? They can investigate and see what's happening with the project, and you can even make requests. They don't always listen, but you can ask. So, you know, it's kind of, and of course, Express LRS is known to go very, very far. So, you know, there's some real goodness in Express LRS. It just kind of depends on your use case. If I were to really give you an honest answer on that question, I'd have to ask you probably a half a dozen more questions. Like, okay, what are you going to do with it? How much do you want to spend on your receivers? Do you need PWM? Do you need CRSF? Are you plugging into a flight controller? I mean, there's a lot of questions that go into something like that. It's not as easy to answer that one in a written format as easy as it would be to talk about it, which is why you want to get on Discord. Get on Discord. We can talk about these things. All right. So that's number 4. Let's see. Keith Whitehead says, will this work for 100cc gas planes with high torque? See what I mean? He says, will this work with high torque servos? Wondering if the PWM board can handle the amp draw on the servo. See what I mean? I purposely pulled this one out because of the conversation recently around high amp draw on servos. And I can tell you, this is a question that people ask. It's like, can the receiver handle the load? That's why I bought that little sensor, and that's why I want to do some testing, because I want to measure it. I don't want to guess. I want to measure it. I want to put it in the air and take some data, take some readings, and see what I find. And that's why I want to do this work. And so to Keith, what I would say is, all I can say is be careful. I can't give an emphatic answer because I've never taken in a current reading from a high torque servo on a heavy plane. I haven't done it. That's the job, and that's another reason I got the sensor was to try it out. So I would say, if you're not sure, get the board. And by the way, I got a link. I'll put this in the description as well, but I have a link for a $12 or $13 PDB from Servo City that's good for 15 amps continuous and 30 amps burst. So I actually put one of those in one of my planes this week, and I'll be flying with that as well. So we'll be trying that out. But just FYI, if you're not sure, I would say caution is the word of the day, and I would say go ahead and use a power distribution board if you're not sure. All right, here's another one. Maxon1, he says, did you have a power expander? This is on the crash, right? So he said, did you have a power expander? If not, you brown out, the servos can brown out due to overload. See what I mean? A lot of people ask these questions. Peak amp draw on these Theta servos, though, is only 2 amps. At 7.4 volts. And no, I don't usually use power expanders on anything smaller than 73. I think the 73 inch might have one. I'll have to check. But 78 inch and smaller, generally no power expander. 78 inch and bigger, they definitely get some kind of power expander today. That may change, but right now I definitely use some kind of power distribution board for those heavier planes and the bigger servos. But see what I mean? This is why I'm doing this investigative journalism. All right, Tyler says, so I set up my radio exactly like this. Everything works as it should. When I plug the plane, the throttle is locked. I arm the plane, the throttle works as it should. But when I hit my throttle lock switch to lock it again, the motor starts running, and I can't stop it until I unplug the batteries. Just chewed up a prop, but got lucky it didn't chew me up. Well, Tyler, first off, I'm not Tyler's dad, but I know in comments what you guys are going to say, and it's the same thing I would say. If you're screwing around with your radio and a battery on a motor, take off the prop. That's the first lesson. Take off the prop. But you know what, man, do what you want to do. But safety's first. Take the prop off. But if you want to break your props and risk your skin, go ahead. But you should be taking your prop off if you're going to test. Number two, I doubt it. There's probably something missed. I'm not saying I'm flawless, but I try and test these out quite a bit before, especially on a throttle lock. So I doubt it. I'm sure there's something missed. But if not, I'd like to see your configuration. Maybe he can come back and we can talk about it on Discord. But I might even have to go back and watch that video. But I get these questions all the time, and I can never replicate what they say. So it's normally, oh, crap, I forgot this switch. So, but I would just say, if you're messing around with your radio, take your prop off, man. You should never have your prop on when you're testing radios. Okay. Oh, this is another one. Sunset Park, FPV. He's my favorite comment of the week. He says, holy smoke, this ELRS RSSI LQ Bible. This is the holy grail of RC link info. That was a very nice comment, man. He said, if you're into RC and interested in how your link works, you need to watch this video. If you're interested in setting up an alarm or understanding global variables and how to set them up, you need to watch this video. That's nice, right? He says, okay, I can go back and watch the video again. This is the part that got me. He said, I've been a sub for a while, but just recently discovered how deep the rabbit hole goes. I'll be combing through your archives. Well, I appreciate that. That's my favorite comment of the week, man. I love it. So I do actually put a lot of effort into these videos and trying to dive deep into the tech to explain it and figure out what's happening and show it, and explain it in a way that everybody can understand. So when I see a comment like that, it just really makes my heart smile. So I appreciate that comment. Sunset Park FPV, my favorite commenter of the week. And that brings us to the last one. Basil says, hey, awesome. Thanks for your help with your videos. I've not been happy with my Radiomaster TX16S due to the method of programming a model, but with your help, it's brought me to a point where I can now do it. Thanks heaps for your help. Regard, Basil. See, that's the thing with OpenTX, EdgeTX, is that for people coming from different systems, the initial look at this, it can be very intimidating. And I know because I had to go through it myself. But what I can tell you is that if you're willing to put in the effort, right? If you're willing to put in some time and study and watch some videos and practice with it and just not get yourself frustrated, just kind of work on it a little bit. what I can tell you is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to Edge and OpenTX if you're learning. So I promise you, when it comes to firmware, this is the best firmware I've ever touched. So it's really good. Is it flawless? No, it's not flawless, but nothing on this world is. Nothing in this world is flawless, right? So it's not flawless. That's fine. You get over that part, but you take the lumps and you make recommendations, and hopefully they make corrections and fixes. But it's really good, and it's paired up with a pretty darn good piece of hardware in the TX16S. So I was really glad to see that comment, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about when it comes to learning OpenTX and EdgeTX. You got to do a little bit of time. You got to do a little bit of work, and if you're willing to put in that effort, your reward is very significant. So that is it on the comments. So that's that. All right, now we can go back to the desktop, and I'm going to check comments, and then I think we're close to wrapping this one up. So let's see here. Chris says, that's cool stuff. Been like, yeah, okay, covered that. I like the voltage sensor. I would think a receiver could handle pretty decent current. I think we touched on that one. I like flaps on SB myself. Good. Yep. Anywhere, I always say your money, your hobby. And I know that sounds it sounds kind of like you're being a wise guy, but that's not what it's not what it means. What it means is there's a lot of different ways to solve a problem. You got to do what works for you. And at the end of the day, since you're the one spending the money, it has to work for you. And if it works for you, you win. You're right. All right. I like the new 2-stage throttle lock logic, working great for me, but I have it set up to disarm it. Yeah. See, there you go. That's the idea, Christian. The whole concept is to show you the logic. And then you can say, well, I don't want to have to be all the way down to disarm. I don't care about that. I want to be able to disarm anywhere. Then just change the logic. That's exactly the point. So that's what it's about. All right, let's see. I think what's next is what's coming up, and we're getting close to being done. So coming up, obviously the OMPM4. I already told you guys, I might start working on it tomorrow. I kind of need to do the production unbox video for that one first. So I kind of got to get that done. But after I do that, then I will work on getting the helicopter put together. I probably want to make sure I can get together with Freddie to maiden that one, because I want to do some testing with it. I want to test the GPS. I want to test that hard deck on the Spirit GT and see if that works. I want to see just how fast it will go into recovery and save the helicopter. So there's a lot of things that I want to do with this one. So that'll be upcoming for sure. And then obviously when it comes to the airframe, the plug and play laser, I've already asked Extreme Flight for a replacement, but they're in the middle of transitioning everything right now. All the stock is being sent from Washington to Georgia. Things are happening. So there's a lot going on over there, and I'll probably have to wait. I'll probably have to wait for a little while, and that's fine. I've got plenty of other things to fly in the meanwhile, but that's it for what's coming up. And then we're also going to be doing a little bit of work on the amp draw question. I want to do a little bit of investigative work on what's going on with current on servos. So I'll figure out what plane to do that in, and we'll do some of that testing as well so you guys can see it. So that's it in terms of what's on the radar, and that wraps up the week. So that is the Pilot Jam for April 7th, 2023. Next week, I believe we have baseball on Thursday, so I believe I'm free on Friday. And I think it's next week. I'll have to check the calendar, but we have Top Gun in Lakeland. So Fred and I are going. If you're local in Florida and you'd like to go, we can meet there. If you're interested in hanging out, let us know. Get on Discord. We'll talk about it there. But Top Gun, I'm looking forward to that. We're going to go a little earlier so we can get a little more footage this time. And we'll enjoy the ride down there and have a good time and hang out and catch some more jets just like those over there are flying and cruising around. But I think this is more warbird oriented, so it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I think that'll be cool. This event's been going on for years. It's the first time I've gone, and I've lived here for a while. So I'm kind of excited about that. All right, guys, that wraps up the Pilot Jam for Friday, April 7th. I hope you liked the video tonight. I hope you liked the live stream. And if you did, make sure you smash that thumbs up. I want to make sure I give a big shout out to my patrons, say thank you guys. Those of you who open up your wallets and help me with the burden of cost running the channel, I appreciate you. Thank you. And I'll invite you, if your budget allows and you're so inclined, patreon.com/RC Video Reviews. I have a tier as low as $3 a month. You can sign up. It's about a cup of coffee. You sign up and you can help me keep bringing information to the channel And by the way, the patrons are the ones that trying to get myself unwound from all these wires. Patrons are the ones that help me do this kind of stuff, buy this kind of gear and test it out and put it on the radio and see what happens. You guys are the ones that help do that. So I do appreciate those of you who are willing to open up your wallets and help out with the financial burden. Thank you very much. Remember, patreon.com/RC Video Reviews. I thought that was last week of April. I'll have to check, Tim. I'll have to check the calendar. It's coming up. It's either next weekend or next weekend after, but it's soon. It's coming. All right. I'm going to clean up the office. I'll probably pop in Discord for a little while. If you guys want to hang out there, I'll probably pop in there for a little bit. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Make sure you get out there and fly something. That's all I've got for tonight. Take it easy.